Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Coteries of New York. The dawn has come and we fell into slumber and now it is time to start the new night. So let's do it. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the switch, flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand, The Melancholy of Resistance. The title is sure on brand. Good evening, Lafayette. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. Gregory is the most wholesome character of this whole game so far, alright? He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'd do well to at least learn about. And about Primogen Council, I still have it there. There we go. The Primogen Council represents the interests of the local kindred and advises the prince on matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in the domain, naturally favoring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to a Primogen not of their own clan. Primogen are often elders, but despite the term, Primogen from Latin means the firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, more and more councils have seen drastic changes to their structure. So, Primogen Council did exist in Bloodlines as well. We had, for example, Primogen of Canmalcaven that we were supposed to find during the Grout's mission, if you remember, and they usually represent the clans, so usually you have at least 7 Primogens in the Camarilla, but it does change, especially as Camarilla changed a lot in the recent years, with Bruja and Gangrel slowly shifting forward to the Anarchs and away from the Camarilla, and with Sabbat clans such as La Sombra joining Camarilla, there has to be some changes. But we don't know how it works in New York. What about the Beast? Okay, we read that before. Let's do it. Who should I talk to? Anyone I should talk to when we arrive? Not especially. My advice would be to try to talk to the prince and perhaps reassure her of your gratefulness for being spared. Maybe speak to Kadir on the same topic if you get the hold of him. I was actually streaming this game during our charity stream of Vampire the Masquerade last weekend, and I was doing voice acting with Avak, and people in the chat agreed with me that we need a romance path with Kadir, okay? This is needed. The Primogen I would advise against. They are rather stuck up, all told, and even if they will talk to you, they might try to secure you for some nefarious purpose. I wouldn't appreciate that. Of course, be respectful if anybody approaches you and strikes up a conversation. You will no doubt be gossiped about, as will I. Keep a cool head. Some enjoy provoking fledglings into stupid acts. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you, she might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she's really concerned about. Her own interests. Wow, it's World of Darkness. Hello! You step into the art hall with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down, and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that definitely is intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems to be pleased about you. Welcome, Selfie. Lafayette, did I get this right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in particularly full mood tonight. Something to do with Lafayette's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you feel a pang of emotion again. Whoever he was, he left a lasting impression. One reinforced with your visits to the show space last night. That's the past. Right now, though, you're back in the gallery and are reminded of your sister instead. Emma frequents this place. Is she aware of these clandestine meetings after dark? Maybe she's a vampire. The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show is about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life and he starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Oh fuck, oh shit, no, come on, don't! Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. That would be the presence ability called Dread Gaze, which is quite impressive knowing that the TOREADORs, the beautiful TOREADORs can also do that. I had the experience with actually being affected by this power in my roleplay. My TOREADOR embraced a vampire, embraced a child, a beautiful model and dancer, and she actually dread gazed him once when she was angry at him, and she won by a big margin with the dices. So what happened is my poor vampire metaphorically crapped his pants at his beautiful child doing this to him, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting power to have. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first nights as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. And that's very interesting because you can actually try to defend yourself against the powers of Dread Gaze and any other discipline by using your willpower. How it works is you actually use the willpower to re-roll your dice in the mechanic. And your willpower regenerates in time, so you can use it over and over again, up to the point where you can't because your willpower meter is depleted, just like your health meter would, and then you become impaired. No, please, don't hurt me, man! Don't! You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up, let's go. Doesn't wait for a confirmation, he just grabs the man and drags him kicking and screaming out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. What happens now? It will be at least some minutes before Kadir gets the information he seeks out of this fog. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your sight and goes to the corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink. Still warm, it smells nice. Just a sip to start you off, a splash over your palate coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Selfie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patterns. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you noticed. Sophie told me to talk to the prince. But This guy seems interesting. Let's go to him. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. He's standing alone, no glass in hand, just a look of worry as you approach. Good evening, mister? Larson, or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. I know who he is already. I met him in the alpha, but in different circumstances. So who are you? You mean like generally? Same as you, a vampire, though I might not quite look it. I'm one of the Prince Panhardt's primogen. I'm here on business, in case the prince requires my insight, usually so she can hear me out before she ignores me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. Not that I'm ungrateful, but out of the curiosity, what was your reasoning? My reasoning? Just common sense, that you shouldn't be blamed for being assaulted and essentially murdered to boot. But as Kadir loves to say, the traditions are clear. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but a word of advice, stay away from me. Many vampires in the sect regard my position as primogen to be kind of a joke, you know. You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting your curious glances. One woman especially, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try to get a word in with a few primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. I'm not going to tell you who this guy is, but I think you can guess already. You notice Selfie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one conversation. Let's go to Prince. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Lafayette? What is it? I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realized it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. Takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Lafayette. Just bow and leave. You leave the two women to their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samira. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in a welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think, something protruding there, making a bulge in the pant leg. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard! And who do you run with? Howard. The Midnighters. An anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group kept over the years. Coterie, a small group of kindred united by the need for support and sometimes common interests. I see. Hey prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... A loud crack as some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That would be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince. There can be only one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, sheriff. When a vampire ceases to exist, crossing the line from undeath into true death. By the way, the only way to fully kill a vampire nowadays would be to either absolutely destroy them and like cut them into pieces. It's not like cutting the head off. Probably you can heal that somehow, but yeah, you would have to literally cut every single part of the body out, dismember a vampire, or put them to the sun. So first of all, you put them into torpor, which means that they cannot move. They are basically, they cannot look dead, but they're not fully dead. And then you need to either knife it out or put them into the sun. So that's the only ways to truly kill a vampire. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan, like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Selfie is a cruel jest. Selfie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm into yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. I mean, I'm quite sure there are many more vampires around here that can actually deal with this more properly than I do, so do not intervene. You have a feeling Howard's effort is fruitless. Just a few seconds later, the feeling is confirmed. He almost reaches the window. Almost, but not quite. In what seems like a blink of an eye, Kadir appears near his scabbarded sword in one corner of the gallery and then appears next to the escaping anarch on the opposite side of the room. So Kadir has celerity and presence. Isn't he a TOREADOR? That'd be interesting. The next moment, Howard's head flies off of his body, baseball cap free. His lifeless body crumples to the ground and begins to decompose in real time. Well, that's interesting, because I'm not really sure if beheading a vampire in the modern lore would kill them. Because it wasn't, I believe, confirmed by the V5 core book. I feel like you would literally have to freaking cut a lot of the body parts there. Cutting the head off, But then on the other hand, how would the head regrow? That would be pretty stupid. But then the legs and limbs can regrow as well. I don't know. Tell me, guys, if you read the book, if you know better, then I am wondering what would be your view on that. I would say that beheading wouldn't be enough, per se, in the new lore, but I don't know. As always, your sheriff does not fail to impress. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch fact to mine and Kadir's attention. I assume I'll have found the verdict satisfactory? It's a rhetorical question and everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests motion to do the same. Selfie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have time to strike up a conversation of your own too. Kadir al-Asma is still here. I mean, his name would suggest that maybe he's Banu Hakim, but yeah, I would say that TOREADOR is also possible. We'll see. But clearly getting ready to leave for one. Larison is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the anarch here is still chatting with the remaining attendants. I want to talk to Kadir before he leaves. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide there won't be a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him at the moment of reflection. What is it, Lafayette? Hey, are you okay? Did I catch you at a bad time? The smirk is gone. His lips are tight now, his face a mask of professionalism and restraint. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is a night like any other. I wonder, how does it feel to bring a lamb to the slaughter the way you did tonight? Do you feel any remorse? Regret? I'm going to enjoy guessing. My guess is Kadir's humanity is pretty high, or at least he still has a lot of remorse towards what he's doing. It clearly seems from the beginning his reaction to kind of was being close to killing me, and his reaction to what he did today, it seems like he doesn't really enjoy killing people, killing vampires at least. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. I was wondering if you could tell me something about Selfie. She talks a lot about the Camarilla and the other things, but I barely know anything about her. Oh, I can tell you something about Selfie. Something she wouldn't want you to hear. Like the fact she's manipulative and vindictive. But then again, which of us Kindred aren't? You want to know more about Selfie's past? Ask her. She's unlikely to tell you the truth, though. I'm quite sure she never told me, despite our previous history. Ooh! That's what we do, fledgling. We exist for centuries and we lie. To our families, our friends, our lovers, to our kindred, sires and childer. To ourselves. He picks up the sword and turns to stairs. Good night. Kadir, you're a broken man, but I want to fix you. Developers, do you hear me? I want to fix this guy. Give me the opportunity. Watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. You don't want to kill me, Kadir. You're a softie inside. We're talking about him on the stream, and I just imagine that once he goes to his haven and once the doors close behind him, he takes his pajamas on and he just takes a big freaking cup of hot blood and starts to listen to Christmas carols or something like that. Like he's a wholesome gentleman. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. Maybe he has high animal can, maybe he has a puppy at home. It's right about when Selfie also ends her conversation and walk over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something and not in talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time, you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a very nice lobby and luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please have a seat, I shall be right with you. You're taking the surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and a nouveau-riche living room, meticulously put together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly some stick with you even after your death. She drags in the cigarette, breathes out. Breathes? How is she doing that? Can you do that? Blush of life, dude, of course you do. Oh, yes, you might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you like. Other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back? The bedroom. Why is she showing you the bedroom? Like, this is something very private for vampires, okay? She must trust you a lot. Similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it, but that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven. Why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me or else this won't work out. You can come here whenever you like asking me something. When you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you to come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Why not talk right now since we're here together? I still need to follow up on a few things before we speak. Patience, fledgling. But silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me, we'll give you a lift. A quick trip, some polite goodbyes, and the promise that you'll show up tomorrow later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into the secret society and its rules. Whatever Selfie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Okay. Let's do another night, shall we? Once more, the darkness falls upon the city. You wake up, same as you have these past few nights, in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight. And then it hits you, the hunger. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the apartment behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her, might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else you gonna do? Call Em? She's probably worried At least she will be when she actually tries to give you a call, which might not happen for a few more weeks, months, if she's busy doing press for her new piece. I mean, well, she's a busy girl, okay? And it actually works now when we are a vampire. It's good to keep her busy. You could try to track down your sire, if the sheriff hasn't done that already. After all, he did buy your painting. There has to be money trail, right? But even if so, what would you say to him? These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them, not anymore. You're a vampire, Kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Selfie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard and you're let into the elevator. Apparently, Mrs. Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait, patiently, as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Selfie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. And she's beautiful. Is everything alright? She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely blurry eyes. Yes, it is. How kind of you to ask. Tell me. When you look out at the city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. You thought the city couldn't surprise you anymore. You've lived here all your life after all. But tonight, something feels different. You realize in this moment that you have truly changed. Yes, you know what Selfie means. The way she gazed out that window and saw the truth beyond. You do the same. The view is fascinating. Each detail absorbing, every angle a new experience. The familiar made sublime. When you turn to Selfie again, she smiles at you knowingly. So you do understand. I had my doubts, but perhaps we are of shared lineage after all. We are! A vampire's bloodline, the kindred sire, etc. An archaic term. I remember this moment when I was playing it in the alpha as a Ventru, and it was different. We did look out of the window, but we didn't understand quite what Selfie meant, because we didn't have this TOREADOR sight. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan TOREADOR. Many TOREADOR emerge from the ranks of accomplished artists, both new and faded, but not all artists who need to wield a brush. The TOREADOR art encompasses all forms of entertainment and stimulation. The clan of the Rose courts the greatest actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even sex workers if the degenerates believe such mortals will offer something new to their clan. VV! Despite the custom of embracing only the best, the TOREADOR fixation on beauty and innocence has caused many a diva to make a fledgling in haste. Many a moonlit nights, new clan members have emerged as shallow hedonists, one-hit wonders, or just a stunning body with nothing else to offer. Nicknames: divas, harlots, sensates, perverts, hedonists, degenerates, or my own nickname that we came up during the stream with, Posh Spices. And the clan is a bloodline of vampires who share common characteristics passed on through the blood from sire to child. There are 13 known clans, wrong, there are more, all of which were reportedly founded by members of the third generation. There are more clans, or yeah, I guess you could say bloodlines more. So yeah, there are 13 clans coming from the antediluvians, but then you have many more bloodlines. Yeah, I guess that's right. By the way, if you guys are interested in the lore of Clan TOREADOR, then feel invited to watch my TOREADOR video, because I have an extended video on their history and the general gist of the bloodline. There are 13 such bloodlines, and speaking of which, Bloodlines is a great game, but also a vampire's heritage. See also Clan. There are 13 such bloodlines among us Kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. There we go. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition if you believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it. inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. With the TOREADOR, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see there where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. It is pretty much a curse, actually, especially in the modern setting. I would say that TOREADORs have it pretty difficult because they do receive penalties to rolls each time they are in ugly environment. And be mindful that TOREADORs would consider most of the environments ugly. And they would have their preferences, of course, either, you know, some artistic decor, or maybe a place full with people who are pretty, or maybe you know, a very posh bars or clubs or restaurants or whatever. And whenever they're in the streets outside, they wouldn't feel the same. It depends on the TOREADOR, of course, how you would interpret that beauty. So for example, there are TOREADORs who are archaeologists, and they may only feel that beauty in the museums, in the places that give them this glimpse of a history, and they feel very bad in modern spaces. So yeah, there are a lot of possible outcomes, and there's a lot of ways for you to roleplay your TOREADOR if you want to make one. The sheriff is of my clan as well, although... I knew it, Kadir is TOREADOR! Although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir, it breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there's beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. I did have this idea before, a TOREADOR who sees beauty in killing. It's a pretty dark idea for a TOREADOR, but I think a very interesting one too. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. They truly have a past. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and the proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents the clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. While many other clans claim positions of influence in mortal politics and business, no one can rival the Ventru in the game of pure power and wealth. They have long been the leaders of the Camarilla, holding more positions of power than any other clan, and they are loath to give that up. The Ventru believe in the strength of tradition and lineage. I'm not going to read more of that, but you can watch my Ventru video if you want to know more of the lore. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Brujah like to see themselves as permanent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. I'm just going to link all these videos down below the video, alright? We don't discuss the rabble much anymore. A rabble is a nickname for Brujah. Not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla. I think they were philosophers once, long ago. Again, something I talk about in the video. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. I know what my clan is, but... Say I meet a vampire for the first time, how can I tell what their clan is? And that is an important question, because a lot of people have this prejudice that you would be able to tell, and you wouldn't. Usually you cannot. There we go. With a few exceptions, perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition. But even that can be misleading. Well, Nosferatu are usually ugly, but then again, some very ugly individuals could be embraced into other clans, and then you may have Cappadocians, which you can not tell from sanity sometimes. Then you may have Salubri with the third eye on their forehead, which probably is a big selling point for Salubri. And yeah, I guess there are the clans. Kiasit, of course. Kiasit is a clan that would totally be recognizable at the first glance. They are super tall, their skin is blue, and their eyes are black, so it's kind of easy to tell. Outside of a few very specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are, personally. What drives them, their wants and needs. Weaknesses, too. True. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I wanted to speak to you tonight. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into Coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves, or mandated by the fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. Suppose I'm not the social type and would rather go at it alone. What then? Well, if you find the company of others disagreeable, I certainly don't intend to force it on you. I'm sure you'll find other ways to burn the nights away. But if you ever find yourself in need of assistance, knowledge, or just someone to talk to, it might be painful to realize that there's nobody out there for you. Should you get yourself in a tight spot, I will not always be available or willing to lend a hand. So I would suggest you take this recommendation seriously. I think it's a very smart thing from a sire or a sire figure, as with Selfie. In general, it is quite rare in the world of darkness to have a good sire, have a wholesome sire's figure. But I would say that any responsible sire would acknowledge the fact that they won't always be available to help their child, and that their child needs to have a network of connections that will allow them to somehow thrive in a society. And important, it cannot be a mortal network, because mortal network is, of course, as you can use the goals and etc., but it can be a little bit limiting when it comes to influence, especially. So Sophie has her mind there, like, yeah. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course. More or less. Alright then, let's hear it. Who's on the list? Eager to learn more about them, I see. Good, I'm glad. She's like a mommy who really tries her son to make friends, finally. So let us start with the Tremere. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. Again, video in the description. Blood sorcerers. You could swear you once saw them play at the Apollo, probably in the same blood sorcerers though. Sophie Sneakers. Oh child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Vitae. Archaic term for the blood of a vampire. And Tremere is a Hermetic mage in 8th century Romania. Tremere was the leader of a cabal of magic, blah blah blah. More in my video. There's also the Bruja, but I am giving you a chance to listen to my video if you want to learn more about that. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I've heard, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. She's actually a person from the Vampire the Masquerade lore. She was mentioned in the books. Spend enough time with Agathon and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. This whole blood magic thing sounds intriguing. Oh yes, fascinating. It is also a well-kept secret of the Tremere. I expect them to share it right away. Some things have to be earned. That's interesting too, because blood magic is one of the disciplines which you cannot learn as another clan just like that. You need to have a teacher. For most of the disciplines, if you get the blood of a particular resonance, so for example, if you are, let's say, a Gangrel, you do not have presence, but you drink blood from a very horny person, super horny, super sexual, emitting this presence, then you might actually find in yourself that power to unlock yourself your points, your experience points in presence. And it's kind of an interesting mechanic in the new Vampire the Masquerade V5 that with the resonance, you may actually learn the abilities of other clans, which are usually reserved to other clans, but blood sorcery is unfortunately out of that spectrum. You have to have a teacher for that. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in the New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu, of course. Wait, Nosferatu? As in German expressionist classic? No way. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. TOREADORs and Nosferatu don't like each other, by nature. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he's no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for the lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook. Right next to one of those Swedish stores, the name escapes me, the ones with the awful furniture. I think in the original alpha version they actually used IKEA. I think they had to change that. I think Paradox saw that and they're from Sweden and they were like, guys, you have to scratch it because we don't want lawsuits. Oh, wait, they did use IKEA. Alright. Oh yes, that's it. My mind struggles to retain things that are aesthetically displeasing. Wow, lawsuit incoming. I'm sorry. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir. Digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work that Nosferatu are best at. Isn't the case right now. Something to do with kind mothers, I think. After initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out of the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic, as if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan in touch with their beast in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. I will read about this clan because I haven't made a Gangrel video yet. I do plan to do so though. Clan Gangrel are outcasts, wanderers, rogues, and hunters. They make havens in the poorest parts of the city and feel no shame for doing so. They claim few domains as their own but defer to no prince. If a feral enters a city, the prince will either accept it or have to fight the feral to get them back to back down. Gangrel embrace from the ranks of survivors and fighters, leaders of prison crews and gangs, explorers, urban and otherwise, and any kind who sees the world as something to traverse instead of something to hide from. They care not for looks or title, but for accomplishment and reputation. They're commonly referred to as wolves, feral and outcasts, or in a more derogatory manner, as animals, strays, and savages. There are some really nice parts to Gangrel though. I will elaborate on it more in my video, but basically I think Gangrel as a clan is a good intro for players who would rather play a werewolf, of course. If you do know Werewolf the Apocalypse and you want to play a vampire character who kind of resembles you of one of the tribes, I would say that Gangrel can accommodate to a lot of your personal tastes. There's a lot of things that you can use from Clan Gangrel. And the tribalism of Clan Gangrel is also pretty interesting. One of my favorite archetypes of Clan Gangrel will be the storyteller. The Gangrels, which originate from those that stand over the fireplace and talk about the amazing things that their sires or people did. And there's a lot to them actually. I don't think they are as... because I feel like a lot of their descriptions are kind of malignant down, making them kind of uninteresting. So I would say that there's a lot more to them and there's a lot more potential to playing a Gangrel than just playing a stray loner animal. There's a lot more to it. So I would love to elaborate on it more in my video. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but the one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire Jezebel was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in '99. I need to read up on her. The very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. I got the impression contacting vampires who aren't in the Camarilla was frowned upon, but you're saying these Gangrel aren't a part of the sect anymore. How does that work? It's not as clear-cut. The Gangrel as a whole have sworn off the Camarilla, but individual kindred of that clan can still hold our ideals. Jezebel was one of them before she became jaded. Yeah, totally. All vampires, the clans as general, can swear allegiance to some sects, but there can be parts of them that will be in other sects, like for example anti-tribu vampires who diverge to Sabbat. Besides, their domain in Prospect Park has been upheld by Prince Panhard for all these years, has it not? We consider them members of the sect, and they have, for the most part, kept to themselves. Perhaps it will take a young kindred such as you yourself to make them realize where their loyalties lie. So you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational, if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make lightly. The kindred who call herself Hope, the Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spent enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable. And that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she's said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she currently can be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. Where did you learn about her exactly? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented and tapped into the current fads among kind. That's something I'm personally interested in, as I'm sure you know by now. I'll take his word for it, at any rate. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to the driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Selfie's apartment. Selfie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious ride. Stay safe, Lafayette. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've ever had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move, and we have... It's a kind of magic. Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction to the bizarre powers of the Tremere. Searching for Hope, Sophie suggests you meet Hope, a reclusive member of the Malkavian clan. You supposedly hold up an internet cafe in Lower Manhattan. Gumshoe in the Dark. A recent string of violent killings has the Red Hook district of Brooklyn on edge. Sophie mentioned that Kadir al-Asmai has a secret associate investigating the murders, a Nosferatu neonate by the name of D'Angelo. If you help him out, he might be persuaded to form a lasting partnership. Jezebel's Childer. Sophie mentioned a Gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika, who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Ferals aren't exactly a social bunch, even by Kindred standards. But if you can keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough, she might be persuaded to join you. I will leave this up to you guys. Let me know who you would want to meet the most. Either Tamika, D'Angelo, Hope, or Agathon. They all seem to be enticing, and I would love to meet and romance them all. So please let me know where should we go first. See you later in the next episode, and don't get lost in the night.